Hello everybody, this is Snarist again, and I'm back with my God of War 3 Chaos Mode walkthrough. And this is part 5, City of Olympia. And this is clearly not the City of Olympia, but we're going to be getting to there. So we just kill Hades, and as you saw me do before, jump down to the river Styx, swim to the bottom, get as far back as you can, and you can pick up his helm. And this is where you get to use the soul summon for the claws of Hades, but if anything, all you would have to do really is just to grab them, use them as battering rams and wear them down, or just keep on mashing triangle with the claws and you can deal with them pretty easily. It's meant just really to kill time. I don't really remember if you get infinite magic on this section, but if you do, I would say just turn on the Blades of Exile and spam Army of Sparta and get it over and done with. And once we go through here, we're going to be going to a cutscene with Hephaestus, but I'm going to trim all that out, and then we'll come back to that. If you remember the that spinning little ruin, and you can turn the crank and you can spin it around, you've got those 4 statues standing around. Well, only 3 of those statues will come to life, but once the first one comes to life, and you start killing it, and then you do kill it, you'll get the other 2 that will come to life, and they'll attack you, but they'll also spawn in dogs, and those dogs are they're the worst part of that, because they will grab you, they will keep you pinned, and when one of those guys hits you with their hammer, it does a lot of damage, and you're going to be in some serious trouble. Yeah, I think the dogs are way too grab happy in this game. It really ruins it for me. So there's a transition there, and so as you can see here, the claws of Hades are very fast. They don't cover as much ground with their dodge as the Blades of Exile, but they're a lot faster, and you don't need to cancel anything. So besides the Nemesis Whip, this has the fastest evade, and I'm going to be using the evade on the claws of Hades for a couple of different sections of the game as like a weapon switch into evade. So with these enemies, you can hit them with the Plume of Prometheus, and sometimes it'll stagger them, sometimes it won't. If you do enough consistent damage, then they'll get staggered. Now when they stagger like that and they fall on the back foot, be ready, because they may use one hand and swing the hammer around and catch you. That catches me out a lot. But also don't get too trigger happy with your blades or whatever weapon you're using, because they will smack you with the hammer and they will interrupt you. So if anything, just like that, see what he just did? So you can tell that these guys are almost dead because you can see one of their heads is gone. Now both their heads are gone. Ideally, what you want to try and do is make sure that they're both low on health. So luckily, when they get to the point where you can grab them, they still take a lot of punishment before they fully die. So if anything, just wait for an opening and then attack them. Okay, now they're both in that state where I can grab and kill them, and so you just do it one after the other. Quickly grab the other one. Now honestly, what you want to do with these dogs, if you've got full health still, is just use Army of Sparta. And see, just like that, you roll away and they're already grabbed you, and then we've got more. Now luckily we're on the other side of the screen, so this guy doesn't have much of a chance to grab, but yeah, I'm not messing around. By the way, careful trying to grab these dogs, because you might accidentally grab the big boy. And look at that! It just went right past him and completely missed. I don't get it. But yeah, these things are pretty easy to deal with on their own. Shouldn't be too tough. So you can usually tell when he's about to do the hammer swing, because he takes a step back and kind of rears up a little bit. So anyway, just finish him off. The other statue won't come to life, so you don't need to worry about it. And that chest I told you about before, just around this corner before you retrieve the Blade of Olympus, it restocks. So take whatever you want and go for it. Now I was about to go for health, but instead I decided to go with magic, and I know that because there's actually a health chest when we come out of the Hyperion Gate we're going to. Now of course, because you've got Hades' soul, you can now use the Hyperion Gate, and so you just need to go through here, and then you'll go to the outskirts of the City of Olympia. And just while I've got a moment to say, guys, I'm having actually a lot of fun doing this commentary, and I feel like I've got a lot more to say, not just because I found a way to bolster the audio so it's a lot clearer, it's not as muted, and I'm speaking a little bit more confidently, but at the same time, this is just such a great game, and there's so much more to talk about. Like, I've played Ninja Gaiden 4 at this point for 120 hours, but with this game it's double that, at least. I've played this game so much, so I know a lot of it, but unlike Ninja Gaiden where everything dies pretty quickly for the most part, but you yourself also die pretty quickly, the problem with Ninja Gaiden as well is that you tend to spam a lot of the same moves. You pick a strategy that works for you and you stick with it. You pick the same couple of combos and you do it over and over again, and occasionally adapt on the fly. But with God of War 3, because you're facing a lot of different enemies that operate a lot differently, you've got to be really careful about how you approach them. So there's a lot more to talk about. So when you come to a fight, you'll find I'm struggling to actually talk about what it is that you need to do. And so just around the section here, there's a few pots and things lying around, get the extra orbs. I think it's disgusting to me, on the high difficulties of these God of War games, that when you smash open a pot, you retrieve more red orbs than you do on a chest at the beginning of the game. I know that changes later on, but it's almost disgusting how little red orbs you get. So you just keep wailing away at Gaia's hand there, then use the Blade of Olympus and cut through it. And then once you get through this part, you're going to end up at a door that's going to be protected unless you kill several enemies at once. And so what you're going to be introduced to now are the Centurions, but they're wearing this golden armor, and these things work a lot like how those undead soldiers from the first game operated. Like, they jump and do a lot of diving attacks, but these things do it so frequently, you almost never have a chance to actually like get an opening to attack them. Like, notoriously, I always die pretty often on this section, and see, all these eyes are going to start glowing, and the glow will go away once you kill these things, and you got to kill like 15 of them, somewhere around there. But the worst part is they introduced the dogs. See, look at that. That's why having the Blades of Exile at level 2 is really good, because Argo's Ram, you can just, they're very easy to parry and counter. It's just finding a moment to attack them and doing a launch combo, because they do it so often. But with Argo's Ram, you can just power through them all. But the dogs are by far the biggest threat. So I'm just getting over here. I move around them as they jump up into the air because they track you wherever you go. Just be careful. Don't think that you can always run around them. Sometimes it'll miss, sometimes it'll hit. Their attack tracks. So you want to move towards the edge, get the Argo's Ram, and you can use it to also do a lot of damage to the dogs. If they catch you out before the Centurions do, just drop an army of Sparta on them. But yeah, just keep running around, use Argo's Ram, and send them flying off the edge. If they grab you, look at that. 2 of them hit me, and I've lost half my health already. Now, you can wear these guys down till they're low enough to grab. These things can be grabbed, but you can only do it when they're weak enough. And you can tell by the way their armor strips off and their head's been uncovered. And yes, of course, you can do the standard, like, hold down triangle. I found that with the Claws of Hades, if you hold down triangle, you can launch a lot of them up into the air and just keep spamming triangle, and you'll stay up in the air for a little bit, but you've got to be prepared to block before you come back down, otherwise you'll get hit. Unfortunately, its Hyperion grapple attack doesn't do any damage at all, but it helps keep them at bay for a little bit. Gives them something to worry about as skulls fly through the air. But yeah, just finish off a couple of them with the odd bow of Apollo shot. You could even set one of them on fire and they run around and crash into the others, which distracts them heavily. So as much as I criticise the Blades of Exile, and I still think they're overrated and a lot of people love it, but I think it's not as good as they think, I will not lie, in this game early on, when you get to level 2, it's still such a solid weapon, and a lot of these encounters I hate become very, very easy. So yeah, just keep wearing them down, pick them up if you have to, use them as a battering ram, hit them with the bow of Apollo, get around them, use Argo's Ram, knock them off the edge. See, if you want to and knock them into the air, you can use Hyperion Grapple as they're going towards the cliff, so you can guarantee they go off, and it's great because you won't actually fall off the cliff yourself. Something to keep in mind as well is that when they're in the air and you're standing on the ground, if you're close enough, you can push circle, grab them and pull them back down again, and you can keep them comboed in the air. Just slam them back down, they fall back, they fly back up, and then you can grab them again. If you need some health, just pick this up here. Again, don't be worried about using 1 or 2 Army of Sparta uses, because there will be a magic chest that you can use to fill up. And this cave isn't so bad, but it's when you get into the next area that I consider to be the hardest fight of this entire game. That section you just saw, that was the first truly difficult fight, I think, of the game thus far, and the one coming up as you get into the City of Olympia is going to be the next toughest fight. Strangely enough, I've had a lot of problems with this section of the game, like always. No matter how much knowledge I have, I always struggle with this one. And when it comes to this next fight coming up, it's going to take a while to get through, because the enemies take a lot of damage, and I'm going to have a lot of tech to share with you guys. So there's a red chest down here. Now they're starting to get a few more red orbs. And there's actually a bit of a secret red orb cache around here, and it's a little tricky to get to, because sometimes you have to bait the harpies towards you. So when you get to the other side there, you can see the glow in the distance already, up there. you need to ride one of these harpies up there and jump off of it like this. But what you want to do is to increase the chance. You've got to wait for it to spawn back in, but you just sort of wait on the edge here and sometimes fly backwards and then turn around and come back. Just keep on doing that over and over again until they get baited. However, if that harpy shows up on screen, be ready for it when you see the orange or the red glow, because that's when it's going to dive in. It won't always hit you, but sometimes it will. And when it does, you have to constantly bait it in because it's very passive. It will still attack you, but it doesn't do it often. As soon as you're about there, you can do it just fine, and then just jump off of it and launch yourself up there. It's a little awkward to get to, but it's not as hard as it looks. So as long as you've been finding all the items out of the chest up until this point, as I've been showing you, you should get your next Minotaur horn upgrade, so you get more use out of the bow. Some red orbs, and another, I believe, a Gorgon Eye. So you're almost on track to getting another upgrade. So try to avoid this harpy trying to take pot shots at you. Now you can fill up again here if you need to. Keep in mind that if you have no magic left, or barely above empty, and you open up another chest, you're not going to get it full back. So I barely just got full back. Alright, now this section here is a piece of shit. These guys on their own aren't so bad. Just use the Hyperion grapple, get them comboed up in the air, stay on them, keep them off screen to pacify them. Just use Argo's Ram, get near this section here. Keep in mind you can fall off there, because you are supposed to go there later. So you can fall off this whole thing. Something I realised you can do as well is that with the amount of times they jump on you like that, you can get into the corner of one of the built areas here. You can get into the corner, they'll pin you back, but the moment you hit an Argo's Ram on them, after a parry, then they'll all go flying pretty much off the edge. But in the next section, I'll just start talking about it now. Actually, no. You see those fireballs that came down? Sometimes Helios will come by and just chariot and smack you with some fireballs right in the middle. If you're close enough there, he'll target you and you've got to move off there. But because it's so bright and these enemies also have bright attacks that flash and they reflect off the ground, it's really hard to tell when they're coming in sometimes, and it's so annoying. I hate it so much. But you're going to have a Centaur come out of these gates in a second, and when they do, he's going to have a new command for these Centurions, and they're going to slam the ground, which creates a shockwave. Now when that happens, you can parry that, but you've also got to jump over it as well. Every enemy is vulnerable when they do this, but they do it often, and the Centaur keeps as far away as possible. So if anything, I don't mind just spamming magic or just using the Blade of Olympus. But something you can do is what I'm about to do right here. The Centaur can still attack you, but if you can manage to jump it early and get aggressive, and Plume of Prometheus, by the way, if you can let it off, it will always stun and stagger the Minotaur. So, I can't believe I keep getting it wrong. If you keep using the Plume against the Centaur, he'll always get staggered and kind of rear back. It won't do that much damage to him, and he'll always be upset and, you know, or even just spamming triangle like I just did then. So it will keep him back. As long as he's not in the middle of an animation, you can keep hitting triangle and he'll keep on getting staggered. And if you hit him here, if you keep him back here, because all of the other Centurions are on a command to slam the ground, or because they're not programmed to come down this section, they will pacify and stay back there. And so you can keep, you know, having the Centaur to yourself. So it's very dangerous to engage the Centaur with all those guys all around the place, because not only does he hit for massive damage, but they keep jumping you, they almost never give you room for attack, and that's where the Blades of Exile, yet again, with the Argo's Ram is so useful. So yeah, just do your finishing move on the Centaur, gut him open, and then you have to go back and fight the others, but be aware, when they come back on screen, sometimes they will jump you and you may not expect it. Keep in mind there's still a fair bit of them. So I'm just using the bow to try and pacify them, but unfortunately because they're not on screen it doesn't target. But as long as you can keep one or two of them on screen at a time, you'll be able to deal with them pretty easily. There goes that guy. There's actually going to be another strategy for Hermes involving using Plume off screen, but you see that flash that guy did before with the chant? That means they can still do that slam on the ground attack, and that's pretty tough to time with the parrying, and you may not expect it as well, so be real careful with it. if you end up dying to these guys when the Centaur's already dead, that's very unfortunate. Because while the Centaur is definitely the biggest threat, I would argue, these guys just make it that much more annoying. But yeah, try to keep away from the middle of this arena because Helios will be tempted to start throwing fireballs at you. By the way, this magic and health chest here, I almost fell off. This magic and health chest here, unless you really, really need it for magic or something, I'd save that. Because there's going to be a green chest coming up, and you'll want to save it. See, I realised that, and I remembered that, so I went away. Now, it's not going to get you much in the way of health orbs, because of course, all the values are decreased, but you can actually trap those people by standing in front of them and stabbing them. So if you happen to be playing on a difficulty that's lower than Chaos Mode, it's a great strategy just to stand in front of them and keep farming them, not only for brutal kills to get an extra 5 orbs, but to get a ton of health. And you can see cleverly in the background that the Chimera is actually waiting. It's a cool reveal, I love it so much. But yeah, you'll have to fight the Chimera. And the first phase, I personally think, is the most annoying because of that damn snake. Now, if you're fast enough, when the snake spits poison, then you just need to move to the side of it and hit it with a Plume of Prometheus. When you start getting more upgrades for your weapons, it's fine. But sometimes that snake does such fast attacks, it's almost impossible to tell. But if you keep hitting it with the plume, you can usually keep it stun locked. And then you just wait till the prompt comes up, then you can cut the snake's tail off, and then he'll get into a standing stance, where he'll either do a few claw strikes, which are pretty easy to parry, and use Argo's Ram to push him back, or he'll start spitting fireballs at the ground. Keep in mind that the third one always is the biggest and has deceptively large range. Just keep away from it, and I don't believe you can parry it either. By the way, keep in mind that occasionally Helios will spam his fireball projectiles in the middle of the arena, so you want to keep away from it. I think that's kind of a shit thing to do considering how small it actually is. Look at that. That was my mistake. But yeah, use the bow every once in a while whenever it does its attacks to keep it at a distance, because Kratos can backstep quite fast when he's got the bow out. But you saw it at the beginning of this second phase here, but the Plume of Prometheus is a great way to keep it staggered and stunned. It doesn't work for this one, because he darts all over the place and acts like a total bitch. With this fireball thing, if you're fast enough, you can just jump over it. Dodging is a little bit finicky, but whenever he does the rear back to do a charge, be careful, because it's really hard to parry, a lot harder than you think, because sometimes it'll hit you before it's actually made contact. It's really strange. But if you jump over his fire sort of floor trap, you can get a quick plume in if you want to do a bit of the damage, but unfortunately, while in each phase he doesn't have a lot of health per se, it's still enough to be annoying because he's so defensive in the last one and he can really mess you up in 1 or 2 hits. So yeah, I would say just wait till he starts making a move against you, like an attack, and just spam the Bow of Apollo. Until he starts dodging again, that is. Because if you keep on using it over and over again, he's going to keep on dodging. But it's a great way to just kind of keep the hits up and keep the damage up. Just wait till Helios flies in front of your crossbow or ballista there, and then fire it off. Pretty simple. Now coming back down here, I have a choice between magic and health, and I choose health because I'm almost dead. And I wish that fight was a bit more graceful, but it is what it is. And once you jump to this platform over here, you'll be faced with some more enemies. Because you're on the edge, it'll be pretty easy to knock them off, but you've got to be careful not to Hyperion grapple too far off, because you'll end up falling off yourself. So yeah, just parry them if you can, Argo's Ram, and at least they'll all be knocked down, so that way you can plume them to knock them up in the air when they're already down. No need to be wasteful here. I know there's already a health chest here, so it seems like a bit of a waste to pick up health before then, but I mean, if you look at my health already, I'd taken a hit, so I would have been killed by then. But you'll get plenty of the other chest. And this was a weird bug I'd never encountered before, so I can still hit him and kill him, but he was just stuck on the edge there, and I couldn't do anything until I started using some of the heavier attacks. So just clean up some of the pots and the boxes around here, some good orbs. Then you're going to move the bramble pot through here. Now, it doesn't actually serve a purpose, this bramble pot, which is surprising. I thought this would have unlocked some sort of secret. But what you'll come to realise is that if you ram it down the hole that's coming up, you can take out or at least do a lot of damage to a bunch of Centurions that are going to spawn in. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious, so I figured this was for a puzzle or something when I first played it, but no, it's just for funsies. But in here there's going to be a lot of pots and boxes, there's going to be a couple of chests, make sure not to miss them. But it's not until you go a bit further down the hall that they'll spawn in, so strangely enough, it's quite fun how you can push them just at normal speed by moving forward with the left stick now, instead of in the earlier games where you had to hold down the X button to kick. But you can just sort of push them out the way. Wasn't targeting the bramble pot, but it was still close enough and the fire caught it. And I just set off another fire arrow towards them, and he runs into all the other dudes and burns them up. Grab the nearest guy I can that's grabbable. Use him as a battering ram. And I got a cheeky hit in there. But it's pretty simple at this point. Just finish them off. Get your orbs. And coming up there's going to be not really a boss fight against Helios, but you'll get the chance to kill him. And when you do, you get the Head of Helios, which, I'm going to be honest, I was surprised, like, in recent years, looking back on God of War 1 and 2, because I always thought that the head of Medusa, like Medusa's gaze and Uriel's gaze, was kind of trash, but then I saw how they were applied, that people purposefully upgrade them to the max or as high as they can go, and they actually use them against harpies. And I'm like, oh my god, that's actually genius. Because they freeze the smaller enemies so quickly, and with the harpies, and particularly the God of War 1, before you retrieve Pandora's box, there's a whole section involving these steamrollers and all these treadmills that push you into them, and these little platforms you can stand on to get reprieve, but they set you on fire if you're on them too long, and all these harpies are dive bombing you. But if you literally just stay at a certain point and just keep using the Medusa's head on them, then it doesn't take all that much magic, and they completely fall apart. Because I still use magic in that section anyway, like Poseidon's Rage or even Army of Hades if I'm feeling generous enough. But yeah, Medusa's Gaze would get it over and done super quick, and so I'm really excited to go back and revisit God of War 1 one day. Hopefully for the channel as well, if I can figure out how to get an emulator working. By the way, these shield guys, you can't break them unless you have the Nemean Cestus. But it's okay, because you're going to use the Cyclops to do it. Now, you see, when he does the kick with his sandal, and then he slams down with his fist, he'll always do a roar straight afterwards, and that's when you've got your opening to attack him. And so just keep doing that. And that's why the Cyclops is a little disappointing, because in God of War 2 these things are a menace, but in this one it's really easy. So yeah, just smack around as much as you can. As soon as you break the shields, they're just regular Centurions that don't have spears anymore, and so they're no longer a threat. But these guys in the golden armor are still a threat. This isn't a very hard encounter, but yeah, they still are a bit of a threat. And so eventually the Cyclops will be worn out and you'll have to kill it, and then just jump on down, kill all these dudes, finish them off, whatever's left. And then you'll have to interrogate Helios for information about the Flame of Olympus, and eventually rip his head off and take the Head of Helios. And as I was saying before, I don't even think people who play God of War 3 made good use of the Head of Helios. It's super useful, and you'll see in the next part as well just how useful using its wide stun ability is, because it doesn't really apply to the bigger enemies, but holding down the flash and setting out like an area of sun is really good for knocking like the harpies out of the air as well. So if you want a fun little trick to this, move your hand up as much as you can towards Helios' face and then use your arm to block it. Like, you can literally get halfway through to him, and then at a certain point all you need to do is just hold your arm like upwards and a little bit to the left, and you'll completely block him out as you go forward. People try to use the hand and focus directly on the face, which is fine, but sometimes the angle's a little bit weird, and so people keep on getting pushed back a little bit. And so yeah, you're just going to rip his head off. And what I was saying before about the harpies is really useful information too, because those harpies dive bomb you like crazy, but if you know they're coming, you can charge up the Head of Helios with triangle, and you let it go, and it's got a wide enough radius that it does a lot of damage on them, even at level 1, and it completely knocks them out of the sky. And so you can go ahead and grab them, or you can charge it up again and just keep on damaging them until they're dead. Or mopping them up with the Bow of Apollo, up to you. But another good use for the Head of Helios, probably my favourite, is you can reveal chests through stardust. So when you see a little bit of a haze, it's got glittering gold everywhere. By the way, that's Helios' shield, it's just in the corner behind his body. No, I guess beside his body. And yeah, you can also reveal secret entrances. There's a couple of secret paths and stuff, or a couple of secret sort of wall panels that you can open up. Some really cheeky ones, and I'll show you where they are. I'm pretty confident I know where everything is in this game. If I don't, I'd be very surprised. Because God of War 2 had some really, like, nasty secrets. By the way, when you hold down the flash and you release it and an enemy gets caught and they get stunned, it shines a light on their bodies, and when you grab them and use them as a battering ram, you can actually see where you're running to. It's pretty fun. So you can also use the Head of Helios and charge it up to take out pots and boxes all around you. So if you're tired of running around smashing pots and everything, you can just clean them up nice and easy with the head. Just charge it up, let it go. So you've got a health upgrade here, and this is where the path of Eos begins, and where this part ends. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.